class, this is an introductory video for co-occurring disorders. I'm Dr. David Gregg. Thanks for viewing this. Please view this video in its full so that you can get as many details about this course as you can. Once again, this is co-occurring disorders. I'm recording this right now for fall 2021. I might keep this video up for future sessions, so if you're in a different semester than fall 2021, I'm leaving this up here because all the information is still relevant and I don't really need to give anything else, so just keep that in mind too. I want to basically just run through how to navigate this course online, run through the syllabus, give you all the important details just so you can navigate successfully through this course. Excuse me. First thing I want to do, I have the home screen up here. This is what it's going to look like when you first enter the course. Actually, what I'm going to do is switch to student view so it looks exactly how it will look for you. So I'm going to view as student here. As you can see, the home screen here for the course looks pretty much the same for you. I'm going to try to also do the same thing before where you can watch this clip on YouTube. I'll probably send a copy of it for you all to see. First thing I want to run through here is the textbooks. So I'm going to go up here. Here's the cover for the first textbook. This is the one that I'd like you to really purchase a copy of because we're going to be using a lot of this textbook in its full detail. I really consider this course to be primarily an assessment course because assessment is such a big part of treatment, especially for co-occurring disorders. The second book, which is not really required anymore, this one is more recommended because the chapters I take from this book, I have PDF scanned in copies. If you like your own copy, I would strongly recommend getting one. It has a lot of great clinical material that the other textbook doesn't really have. Finally, it'd be a really good idea for you to get a copy of the DSM-5 if you don't already have one. What I find can be just as useful for this course, there is a desk reference, which is a smaller version of the DSM-5. Also has all the important diagnostic information you'll need for this class. But strongly recommend getting a DSM-5 because I'm going to be asking a lot of questions that require you to list specific symptoms of different disorders. I'm also going to provide a link in the first module for this course that should also give you access to a lot of specific symptoms, but it's really just going to be a lot easier for you if you have a copy of the DSM-5 to do a lot of the assignments and in this course and to do the exam itself. Alright, so those are the main textbooks to keep in mind. The only one that's truly required for this is this Atkins, and the other two are strongly recommended to have as well. Back to the home page here. I'm not going to put a whole lot of extra stuff here on this home page. I don't plan on it. So the majority of what we're going to be doing, you'll find all in the content section here. Up on top, we click on content. This will bring you to all of the modules here. I try to run these week by week just so that you can have an organized viewing of what the readings and writing assignments are. So first things first, I want to show us where the syllabus can be accessed at any time. I'm going to email you all a copy of the syllabus, of course, but after that, you can always find it here in the content area by going to Overview. Once you're in Overview, you can find here a copy of the syllabus online on eLearning to look at anytime you need to. I've already kind of made some updates to this one, so you'll see the course objectives here. I'm just going to run through this syllabus here real quick for you all. Course objectives, description, required text as I mentioned here. This is a list of all of the extra readings. As you can see, one here is an optional reading that you'll have near the end of the semester. But I will have copies and PDFs of all these in the content section here on eLearning as well. I just want to make sure that you all have the full references here, so you can use these references if you'd like to be put into your assignments. If you'd like to make sure to reference any direct quotes you take from this material, please do quote and cite correctly if you use any direct content from these readings or from anything else outside of assigned readings. Once again, specifically for direct quotes, I'm not going to be too bothered if you don't reference these assignments for reference these readings for assignments, the ones that they are assigned for, it's kind of intuitive that you're going to be citing from these. But yeah, for direct quotes, be sure to cite those correctly. Here also is a general overview of the types of assignments we'll be doing. So here are the weekly types of assignments and the different versions they're going to be coming in. You're mostly going to be doing different types of drop boxes, which are papers and discussions. Papers are typically going to be between 300 and 600 words in length for these Dropbox papers. Discussions can be a bit shorter because you're also going to be replying and discussing these topics with your classmates. So be sure to read those in detail. Every week you're going to have a lecture response, which is, I'm mostly just looking for clear answers to the prompts for these lecture responses, just to make sure that we're getting all the content from the recorded lectures online. But do be sure to really put a lot of good thought and detail, precision. I'm all about being concise. That's going to be a big word you might see on any feedback I give is, being concise, clear, providing the answers to the prompts. Really make sure you're focusing on the prompts themselves. I'm all for it if you want to look for outside references for these different assignments. Just be sure to cite them, and if they're relevant to the prompts I asked for, then all the better. The next part here is the clinical case. That comes in three major parts. We first have the paper one, which is an assessment, 6 to 10 pages in length. There'll be more detail on this if you go online. I'll show you where the paper outline is in the content section. At the same time, you'll also have a case discussion due, which is going to be like another discussion type assignment where you're going to discuss cases, each other's cases, and present them in kind of a smaller synopsis to give to each other. And then discuss, the limits and additional details you might like for your made-up case. Oh yeah, it's important to mention too that these cases should be either fictional or disguised in a way that does not reveal who this person actually is if you're basing it on a real person. So make sure to keep these confidential as best you can. Paper 2 is a treatment plan format. And you can use, I would advise you to use the same made-up client that you did for paper 1 to do paper 2 treatment plan. You don't have to, so it is up to you. I just suggest you do that because then it can keep some continuity in your overall clinical case for this course. Once again, papers will be on Dropbox. The final assignment to keep in mind is at the end, the final exam. You'll have 3 days, you'll have the full exam week to complete the final exam, but just keep in mind, once you start it, you have to finish it in that setting. You have 100 minutes to complete it. So make sure you give yourself enough time, get your notes ready. It can be a very challenging exam, so if you're really kind of hurting for points near the end of the semester and you need to get a good grade on this exam, be sure to give yourself some real time to organize the information from the lectures and the readings so you can do good on that exam. As always, we've got academic dishonesty part here. Please, no plagiarism, no copying things from online. Most people seem to understand this, but I would say in the last year or two, I've always had at least one or maybe two people who seem to think it's okay to kind of take a few lines from a web page and kind of just put them into their paper responses or their lecture responses. I do not accept any copied lines from outside sources that are not properly quoted and cited. So really be sure to look up the APA formatting for getting that correct when you're doing direct quotes. I'm really big on that. So basically what I'll do for most people is, there's three things that could happen if I find copied material that's not cited correctly. I'll give you half credit, maybe if it's just a line or two and it seems like it could have been some kind of error. I give a 0 for the assignment if it's more than a few lines that have not been properly cited. And this isn't a guarantee. At some point I am supposed to report things like that to the Office of Student Conduct. So I might just, if it's big enough, report it right to the Office of Student Academic Conduct as I'm supposed to do. So just keep all that in mind. I am a stickler for you writing and giving me your real answers from your own perspective. I know that can be hard sometimes, especially with how brief the lecture assignments can be. Just do your best. If you read something online, write it out in your own way. Don't do the little thing where you kind of just switch some of the words around, because that's plagiarism too. Use your own words. And just look up a thesaurus or something, right? Go to a thesaurus online. Find your own wording that feels like your own content for anything that you use online. So just keep all that in mind. I do look for that stuff. I look for you to do your own writing. All right, so this is probably going to be the big part here. This is the course schedule online. So you see a full list of the topics we cover. These are the readings. You can click on these to get copies or links to the extra research material readings we have. And then over here you'll see for each due date what assignments are due for that week. And we go all the way down. You eventually have the case presentations and discussions on the same week. Everything is due on Saturdays. Just keep that in mind, because I'm a full-time therapist, so I try to get a lot of my grading done on Sundays. I apologize for anyone who likes to get all their stuff done the last days on Sundays, but also having most of these assignments due on Saturdays is good, because for the discussion assignments, you're going to need time to be able to respond to other students' discussion posts. And I basically give you all Sunday till about 6 p.m. to get those discussions, or to reply to another person's post. Remember that for the discussion assignments, that you do your own post, and then you have to get a reply in by 6, right? So it's going to be, the discussions due Saturday by, 11:59 p.m. Then by Sunday, that next day, 6 p.m., you have to get the reply to someone else's post in. Otherwise, you lose about 20% of the points for the assignments. So always keep that in mind. I try to give some reminders to folks in the beginning, first few weeks, but over time, I'm going to stop giving reminders for stuff, because, I'm going to start expecting you to keep an eye on what assignments are due when, and get the general flow of what's expected. We got Thanksgiving break, and then down here, as I mentioned, final exam is available to take from the 13th to the 16th of December. Feel free to let me know if you have any particular questions on anything having to do with these assignments, where and how to interpret the readings. I try to make sure to, give the right specifications for some of these readings too. It's a PDF that may be confusing, so make sure to look at the numbers that are actually on the pages of the reading when you do a tip reading. I think I have 2 tips. Yeah, there's tip 57, that's going to be, looks like week 5, and then later on you have tip 39 to read through. One more page here. This page gives some really helpful little tips throughout the semester to keep in mind. I mentioned right before how important the DSM-5 is. Here's that link I mentioned. This link will give you some information on other specific symptoms for different disorders, because I'm really big on specific symptoms. That's going to get you points if you can list specific symptoms. This is a weird looking, hopefully that's the right, I'm going to double check this link when we're done here, so hopefully that will be correct. Here's a couple other important things. So for the those weekly assignments, let me scroll back up here real quick. So for these weekly assignments, drop boxes, discussions, lecture responses, it's going to be a lot of them. You may very easily miss a few. So what I do for those is that if you're ever late, and I have to say, late is late. If you're a minute or 2 late submitting, if you accidentally submit in the wrong spot, let me mention that too. That's a really important thing to keep in mind. I see this from some semesters, that sometimes people will accidentally submit the wrong file in for a Dropbox assignment or something like that. If you don't catch it in time, and I don't catch it in time, that's late too. So if it's past the due date and it's not the right assignment in that Dropbox spot, it's late. Now here's the good side though. Any late assignment, that's one of the weekly assignments, the Dropboxes, the lecture responses, or the discussions, you can still turn in any time up until the final exam week, and you only get a 50% doc. So 50% of the points will be taken, but then you can still get 5 out of 10 if you give a pretty good assignment back. That's what this says here. Late reading assignments, Dropboxes can be submitted for 50% before grading. Now that's different for the papers. For those paper 1 and paper 2, you get a 10% point penalty before grading for each day late, because these are much bigger assignments, so I kind of grade these out differently. If you're late by 3 days, that's a 30% point dock. So just keep that in mind, how the late penalties differ between your weekly assignments and paper 1 and paper 2. As well as the case discussion will be the same with this, the 10 points, 10% per day late. No late assignments will be accepted after the beginning of final exam week, like I mentioned. I mentioned this before as well, the final exam must be completed in one sitting. I mentioned this too, that you can reuse the case example from week 1 and Dropbox assignment for papers 1 and 2, because I also asked for you to kind of do one of those there as well. Just be sure not to copy and paste content directly. Yeah, don't self-plagiarize either. I know that's going to also be challenging for some of these assignments, especially between paper 1 and paper 2. There is probably going to be some thematic overlap that's just going to be really tricky for you to rewrite in a whole unique way. So I'm very lenient with the paper 1 and paper 2. But if I see whole paragraphs just being copied and pasted over, I will likely dock significant points for that. So just keep in mind, rewrite for any assignment, whatever it is that you have. The content's similar. For this particular case, that's okay. Between Dropbox 1, paper 1, and paper 2. I just mentioned, yeah, don't self-plagiarize. That's written here as well. If you choose to make yours, this is what I mentioned before as well. Case examples, make sure they're not an identifiable person that your classmates or I would be able to know who they are. If you have any clinical concerns, any personal concerns during the semester, always feel free to email me. Let me know if something's happening. I mean, all this COVID stuff is likely going to not get any better during the fall. So this is where I want to really plug that. If you have an illness issue, please make sure to get some documentation from a doctor, so then I can give you some time to make up any assignments that may be missed for any kind of illness you're going on. I've had people with pregnancy issues, general illnesses, mental health things going on. Whatever it is, let me know as soon as you can. I don't want anyone falling through the cracks, because that can happen real easily with these online courses. Just be sure to give me an email. If there's a medical issue, make sure to get notes so I can confirm stuff that are going on with you. I really hope everyone can get through this semester the best they can. This is a challenging course. It's a lot of reading, it's a lot of writing, so I do have people drop this course from time to time. People who make it through say they learn a whole lot, so I always really appreciate being able to help people through the best you can. Alright, I think that's all I have to say about the syllabus, the content. Let's move back to the modules over here. So over here on the left side we have our modules. First one is a student introduction discussion post, where you can just kind of write and give us an introduction for your classmates. This is not graded, there's no due date for it. This one's totally optional for you. Now, just below that I have the case assignments, and this one drops down into 3 additional tabs. I let Western technology office kind of tweak my class a little while ago. I wasn't really satisfied with a lot of things they did, but this is how they decided to arrange the case assignments. I'm very interested in your feedback. Let me know what you think about this, because I used to have paper 1 and paper 2 within the modules where they were basically due. It can be a little confusing for some people last semester to have them all right here, but this is how it is right now. So let me know how it is for you finding the paper 1 case discussion and paper 2 treatment plans as you navigate content. I'd be very interested to hear any of your feedback on how this is currently arranged, because as it is right now, I'll go over to module 1, it closes, you go back to case assignments, it opens up these sub-modules again. This is where you find the bigger assignments. Paper 1, you see the due date, you see submit here. When you're doing this, be sure to be working on this paper 1 throughout the time it's due, just so you can kind of get things set up. I've got APA formatting slides and APA formatting lecture. I do want this to be in APA format. Don't worry about the paragraph structure. When I say APA formatting, I'm most concerned with just proper citation, organization, and use of grammar, like the proper use of parentheses and italics, stuff like that. I don't take off a ton of points for those kind of things. Really just focus mostly on spelling, grammar, and proper citation. That's what I'm really going to want to see a good amount of effort and precision with. Case discussion is just going to be a synopsis of your paper 1 assessment, and then you're going to put a couple questions there on the bottom. I think we have an outline here for for that too. So we look at this outline, and yeah, this is all the information. Always be sure to look at these outlines for all the assignments. I basically lay things out piece by piece. So if you just run through this for all these different kind of outlines, just put in the information. You can elaborate a bit, but really just focus on getting the details I'm looking for here. This class, when I'm doing these paper assignments, I'm mostly just trying to give you an idea of what it's like at different agencies, how they may structure their assessments, just to kind of give you that idea of how people think about making and developing and sharing these types of assessments. So here's all the information. Make sure to run through this. 2 major needs: one strength, one protective factor of that individual. Strengths are internal, protective factors are environmental based. And then you need at least 2 questions for the class or the group to discuss regarding things like level of care, the treatment approach you might be looking into, client-therapist interactions, anything you could think of. Just give a few questions. And then after that, what's unique about the case discussion outline is I want you to give feedback to at least 3 other presenting students. Presenting in quotes because this is all online. That's going to be different than the standard weekly discussions where you only need to respond to 1 person. So just keep that in mind. We need 3 people to present here. Alright, so go back up to this case discussions tab. We see that here. If you just click that tab. The final thing on this area is the paper 2 plan. Once again, we've got the outline and a box to submit for here. Let me know if you have any questions about these as well as you go through and navigate these paper assignments. They have the due dates all updated for you. We've got the weekly modules. Here's week 1 module. Week 1 module will be due, let's see, we got due date right here. So September 11th is going to be when the Dropbox and the, oh yes, very good point here. Look at this. So this is something to keep in mind. You will not have access to the lecture response assignment until you've accessed the required lecture videos. Because I don't want people jumping ahead and, answering the lecture response assignments before they've actually looked at the lecture. I put a lot of work into these lectures, so please view them, even if you already know all this stuff already. I appreciate people viewing the content. I have a couple extra things in here as well. I put the DSM-5 symptoms of substance use disorder, which is one of the slides from the lecture, just for you to have this ready and available for the assignment. So yeah, there's all sorts of content here. Once you kind of go down past all of this, this is just general information right here. You go down here and you can find the content, the assignments, view all of these videos, and the lecture response should become viewable. Now, here's another very important detail for all those who are watching this full video. Thank you, because here's something to keep in mind. What I've noticed is some of these videos, because of how they're uploaded using Western's weird IT method, will not be viewable on iPhones or Safari browser for some reason. Some of these videos will only be accessible using Chrome or Edge. This is no prejudice on my part. We just found this out, post-production for these videos, that for some reason they weren't working in Safari or iProducts. Apologize for that. Let me know if you're having any difficulties with that, and I can try to get you the videos in a different way, but just try to find a way to view them on Chrome if you can. I don't know why it happened, but it is what it is, unfortunately. Some of these videos I did upload differently, so they should work, but if you ever run into a problem, feel free to email me. I'll remind you what I put in this video as well. No problem with that. Let's see, double check what you submit where. Oh yeah, I mentioned that. Make sure to always check that you are submitting the assignments in their proper Dropbox file locations. Late is late, as I mentioned, even if it's a few minutes late. And I mentioned the video thing as well. So all these modules will they all follow this same general format. They kind of review what is expected for the module, and then you go down and you'll have the readings, like the extra readings as PDFs are here. Here's for week 2 is going to be, so I do A2 is for assignment 2, and then discussion 1, just so you keep in mind, this will be your first discussion, will be for module 2. We have the prompts here. Follow the prompts very closely. That's what you're going to get most of your points from, is including the right content and not plagiarizing, including your own information. We have the lectures in their parts and a couple bonus videos as well. And once you complete these, the lecture response will become available. Alright, so I think there's one more thing I want to mention. Oh, this should be hidden. I'm probably going to go and hide this later, but I will have all the lecture response slides available. I'm going to try to make these available the week before finals week. I don't want to have these all available here right now because they'll take away from doing the actual lecture response videos. So keep in mind these won't be viewable until near final exam week. Mentioning final exam, there is another module down here. This is more of a preparation module where it gives you a pre-test and a study guide. This is the final thing I want to mention. Oh wait, I think I'm also going to mention something else about rubrics in a minute, so I'm trying to remind myself about that. But to find the actual final exam, that's what I wanted to say here. I mentioned you can access it anytime during finals week. Where you go to get to the final exam is assessments up here. Click assessments and then you go to quizzes. Quizzes will then open up and you'll have the final exam available to take right here. You can see some information about the final exam, the time limit, and so on. So, last thing I want to mention, I believe, is rubrics. You go back to assessments, down to rubrics. Rubrics will show you a general format for how I grade, where I put points into these different assignments. So case discussions have a rubric. It's the same rubric I use for all the case discussions. Oh wait, this is the unique case discussion. So this is for the for your case presentation. It's a more detailed rubric than you'd find for the weekly discussions. So you can look through this too. Keep in mind, for these rubrics, this is the general formatting frame. There may be things that I will still grade or take points off of that may not be included in these rubrics, so just make sure that everything you read in here is accurate, organized, and as precise and concise as you can, and you shouldn't run into any other issues as long as you get all this information on here. Obviously, I'm looking for complete sentences. Try to keep format understandable and clear. We've got the regular discussions. This is a weekly discussion grading rubric right here, which is a bit simpler in its general format. I just have accuracy, relevance, clarity, grammar, spelling, the contribution to the learning community, and then as you see here, this is just kind of generally how I grade these different areas. 10 points total for each one of these. Same thing, just be sure to look through these rubrics if you want more information on, in general, how these assignments will be graded. It should give you all the details in that way. Okay, well I think that's about all I have for you. Feel free always to let me know if you have any other questions. Things will always come up, so I always welcome questions. If I get a couple of really interesting questions for things I think others may be curious about, I might just post to the whole class and give a broad answer on something there. And always be sure to be curious and look through all of these different tabs yourself. Go to communications, there's different ways you can access different things like the discussion assignments. You can kind of see them all listed here. Yeah, just let me know how things are as you run through these courses. Because this is all online and all pre-recorded, I'm just going to be here for you to talk and email if anything comes up. I wish you all the best, and thanks for watching this video. Take care.